Let's roll, baby. Happy Thanksgiving, one and all, and welcome to the Ringer Sunday pregame as we get you set for a full slate, loaded slate of NFL football. Let's welcome in the wise guys who celebrated Thanksgiving. They are back with a bang as we go across the room. Cousin Sal, Joe House, Raheem Palmer, and Sal, as we come off Thanksgiving, as we watched 3 games on Thursday, after we watched Black Friday as the Chiefs once again survive, I didn't necessarily anticipate that you would be in a better mood about the weekend than I would be. I mean, once again, my team is stranded in the cold at Lambeau Field. Some narratives just remain the same.
Yeah, well, better mood, I don't know, because you probably didn't have as much on a moneyline parlay with Ohio State as I did. But my goodness, Cooper Rush didn't embarrass himself. The Cowboys didn't embarrass themselves. But, JJ, that is a problem with the below freezing temperatures. And, Tua, I wanted to believe in you. I did. I had the Dolphins as well, but I'm so sorry. Season's over.
Listen, we could talk about the trends with Tua. How about the line of scrimmage and the joke that you saw from the line of scrimmage on the offensive and the defensive lines? Tua threw for 350 yards and 2 touchdowns. I got a way bigger problem with the lack of physicality from the team that plays down in South Florida. That leaves a lot to be desired. But, Joe House, once again, the Chiefs play with their food. It's probably a game they should have lost. We're thinking about how Antonio Pierce screws it up again. Any other team, we would be saying warning sign, warning sign, warning sign. But it's Patrick Mahomes. It's Andy Reid. It's all the voodoo the Chiefs have. I'm not making that mistake.
No, sir. And we are about to enter prime Chiefs time, where we saw on Friday they're starting to get some wrinkles on that offense. Boy, did Travis Kelce catch a lot of balls in the first half. I think they might have gotten his ear and said, if the more catches you have, the more we can put your girlfriend on TV. That's just my conspiracy theory, but I was happy to have it every which way, including the Raiders plus 12.5. Let's go, fellas.
It was a nice cash. We have to work on maybe like superimposing my wife with a cool little gesture like Taylor for Travis after the first down. It was impressive. Maybe we'll work that into the Ringer Sunday pregame. Raheem, speaking of what we're going to work into the Ringer Sunday pregame, you're on the East Coast, I'm on the East Coast. It is miserable outside. It's cold. It's windy. Now, all of a sudden, we have cold weather element football very much involved. Is that something you'll be taking into account when you think about the handicap for a few of these games?
Oh, most definitely. And I think we saw it with your beloved Miami Dolphins. I mean, the first play, they got the ball. They muffed the ball. And that led to the Green Bay Packers having a short field. They scored, and the game was all but over from there. So you definitely have to take into account. And so the weather, me personally, the game that I'm betting, it doesn't have any weather issues. So I'm fortunate in that regard.
Nothing to worry about. It's going to be me next week down in South Florida. Who needs the Parker? Who needs the North Face? 75 and sunny, baby. We got a lot coming your way here on this Sunday edition, Ringer Sunday pregame. Bill Simmons and Chris Ryan, they're going to join us after the first hour of the show. And, Simmons didn't have a Thursday pod. He wants to do $1 million picks here. So we'll oblige. We'll allow it as he takes a little break from his Yacht Rock media tour. We have our dogs of the week. We have our post-Thanksgiving family meal. I know I'm still kind of stuffed, but we got some more eating to do. But it's now time. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, let's wise it up. We're excited, and we are coming off a clean sweep of the board. What a brilliant job by the four wise men a week ago. We all nailed our wisest wager. I wish we put it as a 4-leg parlay. And if you did, if you're watching here on YouTube TV and FanDuel TV, job well done. We got a great race between Sal and Raheem for that top spot. House and I are battling out to see who's going to get that third place title, the bronze medal of the Ringer Sunday pregame. But Sal, you're in the lead. You have the honors. Take it away. What's your wise wager?
First of all, I love that we went 4 for 4 last week. If you had watched just 6 minutes of the pregame show last week, you would have hit on an 11-1 parlay if you put all 4 together. But JJ, as you mentioned, I'm 10-2, and I'm taking the Patriots over 20.5 points. Now, what does that say? Am I showing off? Has this competition become too easy for me? Yes, all those things. But I do like this bet. Pats at home against the Colts. Colts have allowed 20+ to 5 teams in a row. They have the 28th overall defense, 27th against the pass. The Patriots' last 3 home games have gone over the total. They scored 21 against the Texans, 25 against the Jets, 22 against the Rams. All 3 of those defenses rank better than the Colts statistically. Anthony Richardson also, JJ, could be down 3 wide receivers, so it could be more reckless tosses to pass catchers he's not familiar with. The Colts Might even win, but I like New England to bust out for between 24 and 26 points. And I'm not just kissing Bill Simmons' ass because he's going to be on later. Believe me, far opposite of that. I'm going to run my wisest wager record to 11-2, and then maybe I take the next 3 weeks off. Maybe I go to Miami, JJ, because I'll be done. You like that idea, House? There we go.
I love it. Miami time.
Well, listen, everybody's welcome in South Florida next week. We could hang, and then we could go and watch a riveting football game between the Dolphins and the Jets. But, Sal, I got to ask, because you're red hot. You're 10-2. You're in the lead, and you're kind of mixing it up with a team total. You've been so hot with the sides. I'm surprised you're kind of shifting your method here, buddy.
Don't be surprised by anything, man. I'm 10-2. I'll throw it out there. Raheem, it's your job to catch up. Can he do it?
Well, Raheem, it is your job to catch up. You're 2 off the lead. We need you. You got to keep it going now. What are you staring at for Sunday?
I should really be 1 off the lead because we all know Cousin Sal stole one last week. The Bears had there was no reason for them to cover that game last week. But, I mean, Sal's running hot right now. I'm trying to catch him, and I'm going to try to catch him with the Rams -2.5 against the New Orleans Saints. I think this is a great bounce back spot. They played the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles have a great pass rush and a great defense. Well, the Saints don't. They're bottom 10 in pressure rate, 28th in pass rush win rate. If you look at Matthew Stafford, when he's kept clean, he has 13 touchdowns to 2 interceptions. When he's not kept clean, is something different. And I think this is a bad matchup for the Saints defensively for a couple of reasons. Obviously, they traded Marshawn Lattimore. Obviously, you look at the fact that they're banged up at corner. Who is going to defend Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp? And when you look at this team against the run, they are 31st in rushing defense DVOA. So Kyron Williams should be able to get off, have a big day. And then when you look at this from a numbers perspective, the Browns were laying 1.5, 2 on the road against this same Saints team. So how could the Rams be -2.5? And we know the Rams with Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay, they're better than, much better than that Browns team. So I think from a numbers perspective, from a football perspective, from the fact that the Rams lost last week, this is a desperation spot. Give me the Rams -2.5. Hopefully I can move it up to 9-4.
I love the pick, Raheem. I think it's a good buy low spot with Sean McVay's team. Got to buy some sort of regression eventually from the Darren Rizzi, pride of Bergen County-led New Orleans Saints. Okay, we had a team total. We had a favorite. House, for your wise wager, a stinky dog.
Yeah, and I'm worried about how stinky this dog is. I'm looking at the Tennessee Titans getting 6.5 points against my Washington Seawards. I just hate catching this Tennessee team in this spot. They have played the #1 toughest schedule of defenses since week 7, these Tennessee Titans, and now they're catching Washington, which can't rush the passer. 2 straight games under 20% pressure rate, 3 of the last 4 under 30% pressure rate. Am I advocating backing Will Levis? Well, yes and no. I mean, yes, Will Levis takes too many sacks, but I don't think Washington is going to get home. And the guy can generate deep balls, explosive plays. They have a 2-headed monster in terms of a rushing attack. And this Washington defense, in terms of stopping the rush, hasn't been good. But really, the Washington offense has become one-dimensional. There's a lot of talk about Cliff Kingsbury and the Cliff in the second half of the season, but the loss of Austin Eckler cannot be understated. The Washington offense really needs its running backs and its tight ends to be involved. The Commanders' passing attack throws to wide receivers at one of the lowest rates in the NFL. Look, fellas, I know this looks like an emotional hedge, but I bet, and I encourage everybody to look at this in advance of 1 o'clock, Washington to miss the playoffs at +152. Because I think there's a good chance that this is the last week that wager will be at plus odds.
Wow. How about that, Joe House? Wow. It feels like Joe House, guys, and that's the cue for House. I like it. We have a little graphic there. You timed it out perfectly, amigo. Has not picked his Washington Commanders once throughout this entire.
He's been betting against them. Forget picking them. He's been betting against them every week as an emotional hedge, and he knows what he's doing.
Well, they do have 7 wins, though, right? I mean, they're not 3-8, right? But yeah,
correct.
maybe they fall down. Maybe they fall a little bit here. I think they get to 10, though, still, House. You got wins on your schedule. You're going to beat up the Cowboys.
I hope
you know.
so. I hope you're right, Coach.
We shall see on the Washington C words. I think the Titans cover a number. I think you get your wish, though, House, and you get the double cover and the emotional hedge. Tighten the cover. Washington to go and win the game. All right, guys, last but not least, I'm looking for a last stand type of spot in the AFC North. You have the Cincinnati Bengals coming off a bye. I know what the questions and the narratives are surrounding the Cincinnati Bengals defense, but let's peel back the layer and look at the Pittsburgh Steelers offense here over the last 2 weeks. Did not have a great game against Baltimore, barely won. Russell Wilson not great in the second half. Offensively speaking, I know it was a snowstorm in Cleveland, but I was underwhelmed by what I saw from the Pittsburgh Steelers. To me, the best unit in this game is the Cincinnati Bengals offense, and their season is on the line. I understand they're 4-7. I understand they've lost a bunch of close games. I'm not ready yet to fold up the shop and fold up the tent on the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm going to lay it. I think it's a monster day for Joe Burrow. I think it's a monster day for Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, who are both going to be able to go and give it a go. And I think you're going to see the AFC playoff picture tighten up a little bit. Right now, one of those teams that's in that front-runner position, I think might find their way back to the pack. Sorry, Tomlin is a dog. Not today. And know this about the Bengals. With Burrow as the quarterback, they've won 3 of the last 4 against the Steelers. And a lot of the trends are going to point towards Pittsburgh. Remember, Burrow missed a bunch of those games. Burrow's in. I like Cincinnati. I am going to be laying the 3. We'll see if I get some unity with the boys. Now, it's time for an SGP. Sal, you're looking at a game, and I feel like you picked the marquee game of the week almost every week for these SGPs. I like your logic. Let's hear it.
I don't know. I'm sick of it. I'm going 3 for 4. I'm tired of it every single week with these. But let's put together a winner. I feel like if you're going to go positive numbers, this Ravens-Eagles game will have those. You have a lot of superstars. You got a big play guy. So I'm going Ravens minus 2.5 adjusted. They just need it more. Need to keep winning. If they drop to 5 losses, it gets scary. So I think they survive the Eagles. That offense is too tough. Number 3 passing, number 2 rushing. I'm going to go over 48.5. There we go. The numbers again should add up. That's an adjusted number. Henry, 100+ rushing yards, and Henry, anytime touchdown. Henry, 100+ in 6 of his last 10. He scored a touchdown. He scored in 10 of his last 12 a touchdown, actually. He wants to prove, JJ, that he was the better free agent pickup. And if you look at offensive player of the year numbers, he and Barkley are exactly the same number, the same plus if you want to bet him. So King Henry busts out over 48.5 combined, 50+ in 7 of the last 8 for Ravens. This one pays $4.51. That's my same game parlay.
And I love the fact that Derrick Henry did not score a touchdown last week on Monday night against the Chargers, which to me makes it that much more likely that he is going to score a touchdown against the Philadelphia Eagles. Okay, Raheem, you did not exactly go for the sexiest of games for your SGP, but nobody really cares if you go and give us a winner. So Bucks, Panthers, how'd you figure this one out?
I think this is quietly one of those sexy games that people don't even realize it. I mean, look, you look at both of these two teams, they have bad defenses. So that means it's going to be over. So let's go with the Bucks on the money line. Let's go with the Bucks Panthers over 41.5 on adjusted total. You look at both of these two teams. The Panthers are 8-3 to the over. Tampa is 7-4 to the over. The Panthers are giving up almost 27 points per game in their 6 of their last 8 opponents. And then if you look at the Bucks, they're desperate for a playoff spot. I think they should get the win. And then Mike Evans, we know he's going to receive the rock. And then if you look at the Panthers, they are a bad run defense. And Bucky Irvin is really starting to come on. Last couple of games, he has 73 and 88 rushing yards. He's averaging 5.9 yards per rush. This pays almost 4-1. So I really like this play. I had the Bucks last week. Didn't hit, but we're going to go back to the well and hopefully get it done this time.
Well, the Bucks were very good to me last week. Got me off the schneid, Raheem, and I will be incorporating Tampa Bay into some money line parlays and some potential teasers as we move forward throughout Sunday. Okay, a reminder, Bill Simmons, Chris Ryan going to be joining us later on in the show. You want to check that out. They'll be joining us after the noon hour here on YouTube TV. We're on FanDuel TV, of course. And we're going to have a little fun with some anytime touchdowns a little bit earlier in the show. We're mixing up the rundown a little bit. We're changing it up on you here on the fine program. Let's start with you, Sal. Anytime touchdown. Let's hear.
I like Jamar Chase. I think you'll like this, right? If you're back in the Bengals, you have to like Jamar Chase to get open there. Burrow's favorite target. He scored in 7 of his last 9 games, and you get -115. -115 for a guy who scored in 7 of his last 9 is pretty good. The Steelers, kind of middling pass defense, 17th overall. I'll have more to say about this game in general, but for Jamar Chase, he leads in receiving yards, leads the league in receiving yards and targets, and second in the league in red zone targets among wide receivers. Minkah Fitzpatrick, he announced the other day he is not one of his most hated players. That's interesting. Don't let him fool you. I think he is one of his most hated. This is going to be a rivalry that Jamar Chase wins at least one round of today. He hates everyone. Jamar Chase, -115 for anytime touchdown.
I love the sound of that. I think it's going to be a big day for Jamar Chase and T. Higgins a little bit later on. For my anytime touchdown, I'm going to my backyard. Not quite my backyard, but East Rutherford, New Jersey, the Jets and the Seahawks. And I know this. The Jet run defense has been straight out abominable. And they cannot stop any running back known to man. Now, it is a revenge game for Geno Smith going up against his former team. We'll have some nuggets on that a little bit later on in the show. But on a day that I think will be advantageous for the Seattle offense, I am going to go and take Kenneth Walker, who is back. He's 100% healthy, and I think he will score at least 1 rushing touchdown in this game. So give me Kenneth Walker of the Seattle Seahawks at even money for an anytime touchdown. Okay, House, we got Jamar Chase. We got Kenneth Walker. You're getting involved with a quarterback for an anytime.
Yeah, it's big time, big Sunday. Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills at home with 2 feet of snow surrounding the stadium, coming off the bye, and it's time for the presumptive MVP to go ahead and put a stamp on it. We just saw it against the Chiefs, coming off the bye. Josh Allen is rested. This is the time of year when he starts using his legs more, and the 49ers have allowed 16 rushing touchdowns this season, 3rd most in the NFL, 11 rushing touchdowns in the last 5 games alone. They are not great in the red zone. Their front 7 is beat up. I love Josh Allen in prime time, putting a stamp on that MVP.
I like the sound of that. And Josh Allen, wintry conditions up in Buffalo, New York. That just sounds apropos on so many different fronts. Okay, Raheem, we went with some standard SGP plays or some standard anytime touchdowns. Now we got to dig a little deeper. I like where you're going with this. Give me a crazy anytime touchdown.
Yeah, so every week we're going with, the obvious. We're going with Jalen Hurts. We're going with Derrick Henry. I want to do something different today. We're going to go with Pat Freiermuth. +360 to score a touchdown. And, this is all about the opponent. The Cincinnati Bengals can't stop anybody. It can't stop a nosebleed. Everybody can score on this team. So I think the Steelers are going to have plenty of red zone opportunities. And he actually leads the Steelers in touchdown receptions. So why not take a dart on this one? It pays +360. I really like this one.
Oh, I like the sound of that, Raheem. First of all, we're getting almost 2-1. Freiermuth has been a favorite of Russell Wilson in goal line situations. And if they struggle to run the ball, boom, Freiermuth for a touchdown. Love the sound of that. Okay, we go from anytime touchdowns to the fishiest of the fishy, the stinkiest of the stinky. Let's get made. It's time for the rat lines for this Sunday. Guys, I'm going to start the proceedings here, and I'm going up to Orchard Park. I'm going to Western New York, where Nick Bosa is out for San Francisco. Trent Williams is out for San Francisco, and yet they are giving you Buffalo right around the touchdown, which for a Sunday night game with a whole lot of teasers and moneyline parlays that are pending from Thursday, that might be pending from Friday, that will definitely be pending from Sunday. Hey, all you need is Buffalo at home to go and take down the beat-up, bruised, battered, and beaten San Francisco 49ers. It's a shoo-in. It's a layup. There's no way this bet can lose, except it's 6.5, and I think it kind of stinks. I expect Buffalo to win. They're the better team. I know San Francisco has a lot working against them, but with this line being where it's at, it kind of fits that rat mold to me. Way too easy to parlay, way too easy to tease. Just remember I said that. House, that's my rat. It's in Orchard Park. Where's your rat?
I am going down to Carolina, looking at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers laying 6.5 against the Carolina Panthers. I don't know if you guys have noticed the Carolina Panthers over this last handful of games have suddenly turned into a real football team. We just saw this Tampa team close at -6 against the god-awful Giants last week, up against Tommy DeVito. The back-to-back wins from Carolina, plus a very serious challenge to the Chiefs. And the main architect, Dream touched on this a little bit in the same game parlay, Bryce Young has gone from being completely terrible to kind of competent. He has a middle-of-the-road EPA, his completion percentage over expectation. He started to climb up, and he's fifth in this PFF grade. He had a very, very good game against the blitz, against Steve Spagnuolo's blitz, against the Chiefs, and honestly had the best performance against the Chiefs blitz of any quarterback that Kansas City's played this year. He made some unbelievable throws. I think that this number is inflated because it's tied to the old version of the Panthers. It's too many points. I like Carolina plus the 6.5 today.
And an interesting dynamic, Dave Canales, the former offensive coordinator for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, going up against his old team. We'll see if there's a little insider info there, something to think about. Okay, Sal, this game was an honorable mention for me for the Rat because I see exactly where you're going with this. Explain to the audience what your Rat line would be for Sunday.
Well, listen, Chargers, Falcons, right? So basically, when we're looking for a rat line, I just scan the board and say, hey, which one's 1.5? Because these 1.5 lines are insane. JJ, you and I talked about the Jets and Seahawks. We'll get more to that later. But I call it the tic-tac terrorist line, 1.5 calories. This line will probably shift from 1.5 for the Chargers back to the Falcons, 1.5, 4 times during this rant, because that's how crazy these 1.5s are. And by the way, the Falcons, no one could really figure this team out anyway, right? You don't know what's going on. The 1.5 might be enough to stay within the cover there. It could be a 16-15 game, and they're even tougher to figure out when they play outside of the division. We know the Chargers are better. You know it in your cranberry rotting gut that they're better, and that Cousins isn't trustworthy. Bijan isn't. Kyle Pitts, are you kidding me? They're not to be trusted one way or another. There are plenty of games to jump on. Stay away from Atlanta and the Chargers. This is a giant Atlanta rat line. This is like a Waffle House rat. You open a broom closet door and you in a Waffle House and you see this rat and you're like, okay, I'm going to close it, leave it alone. Just take another game. This one's on the board. It's all for me.
Feelings mutual on this because a lot of the football instincts would say Jim Harbaugh coach team, Chargers off a loss. The Chargers been good going to the East Coast, but then you have J.K. Dobbins out. You have an Atlanta team coming off a bye. It's a complete stay away. Right there with you. All right, Raheem. Last but not least, what's your at?
Going with Titans plus 6.5 at the Washington Commanders. House hit on this already. You look at Cliff Kingsbury. There's a rapid decline for this team. You know, you look at him throughout the course of his career, even dating back to college. He is 18-47 straight up. 27, 36, and 2 against the spread from November on. So you see the offense decline, and you're seeing it with this Washington Commanders team. But let's also mention the defense as well. Since week 8, they're 18th in EPA per play. So this team is really struggling on both sides of the ball. And you look at this line at 6.5, it feels like we're pricing this Commanders team as the team that we saw from the first half of the year and not the second half of the year. And if you go back before the season started, they put out these look-ahead lines. The Washington Commanders were -1.5. We're all the way up to 6.5, and it feels like you have a Commanders team which overperformed expectations the first half of the year, and you have a Titans team which underperformed expectations. And I think you're seeing regression on the front of both teams, so this is a complete rat to me. I'm staying away.
Very interesting, and I know that's maybe music to the ears of one Joe House. Now we go from our rat line to our OMG, I can't believe I'm making this bet on this particular Sunday. Now, House, I have some thoughts on the game you're going to be bringing to the table here a little bit later on in the show, but you've been pretty good with these OMG bets, so let's hear what you got.
Yeah, I wish I had them in my best bet, man's best bet, but I'm looking at the Browns money line. It's up over 2-1. right now, and it's basically Jameis in another primetime game. All credit to Denver, all credit to Sean Payton. They swept the NFC South with a good win on the road against Tampa. They beat the Raiders twice, and they beat the Jets. I like Jim Schwartz in this Browns defense, who look to be healthy up against a rookie quarterback, and I like Jameis eating W's on Monday Night Football. So I think it's a reasonable kind of investment here.
I like it. Juicy. We love a juicy price for an OMG bet. Sal, you're giving us a juicy price as well.
I am. My OMG is Bryce Young to throw 2 or more touchdown passes, and we praised Bryce Young in the first 20 minutes of this show. But he's been pretty steady. I think he had 2 touchdown passes a month ago against Denver, but here's why it's an OMG. He's only done this 3 times in his career, 3 for 24 overall. But and Raheem talked about this, Bucks 29th against the pass. Tampa Bay has allowed 2 or more touchdown passes to 4 of the last 5 quarterbacks they've faced. Kirk Cousins had 5, for God's sakes, against this defense. Certainly the number 1 pick in the 2023 draft, who's playing his final home stretch so that his team doesn't then have to go draft another quarterback, could put up 2 here. I like this at plus 178. They play the OMG song when he hits Adam Thielen to make it even more unbelievable for a second time in the third quarter. Yes, OMG, Bryce Young, 2 or more touchdown passes.
Raheem, you picked a stinky game for OMG. Let's hear.
Yeah, I feel like Usher and will.i.am. Oh my God, because I am actually betting on Anthony Richardson as a road favorite. Yes, it's one thing to back Anthony Richardson against the stinky New York Jets when they're catching 4 points. It's another thing to lay points on the road with a guy who he isn't the best in terms of down-to-down success rate. So it's not a large wager, but I'm backing it.
Fair enough. And I'm backing a guy who couldn't catch a cold on Monday Night Football, and I loved every minute of it because I had Joe House's wisest wager with the Baltimore Ravens. And Los Angeles Charger receiver Quentin Johnson, I think he had 6 targets. I think he had 4 or 5 drops. Well, guess what? I sense a little bit of a market correction. I think we're going to have a shootout with the Chargers and the Falcons, and I'm going to take Quentin Johnson over 2-1 to go and score a touchdown. How about that for OMG? When we come back on the Ringer Sunday pregame, we got Man's Best Bet. We have our family meal, Bill Simmons, Chris Ryan, all still to come. We're right here on YouTube TV and FanDuel TV.
Shout out to my brother's friend Kyle, who saw Avatar in 3D. Kyle, and he saw Avatar in 3D, and it was Christmas Eve, and we were together, and he was super baked, and he was trying to explain to us how important it was to see Avatar, and he was just like, dude, I wish life was in 3D.
Is it not?
I think about that all the time. Yeah. I think every time there's a 3D movie, I'm like, oh, if only life was in 3D. Anyway.
That's really funny.
All right. You want to go through these games?
Yeah.
The Steelers are playing the Bengals this week, and the Bengals are approaching mathematical elimination if they lose. Seems like the Steelers should win. I feel like the Steelers are going to lose, right? This seems like a classic Steelers letdown game.
Yeah, I feel like I'm pretty pessimistic about the Steelers, and that's kind of annoying as a fan of them. But I don't know, man. I do think this team is just a wild card team with a record that's a little bit too good for what they actually are. Their defense is playing great, but like, I don't know, if you actually just go back to the Steelers schedule this year, it's like, all right, their best wins are Falcons week 1 when Kirk Cousins could barely move. They beat Denver week 2, second game of Bo Nix's career. They beat the Ravens when Justin Tucker missed 2 field goals. And then they beat Washington, which looks a little different now than it did. And they've lost to the Colts, the Cowboys, and the Browns. I still think that the Steelers are just like a 10-7 team.
Oh my God. I just figured out what the Steelers are. They're a UFC fighter who wins on the ground. They're like George St. Pierre. Like they're like the guys who like are like the greatest wrestler in the history of like the University of Iowa, and they're like undefeated and they're like 150-0 in college, and then they come into UFC, and they don't stand up and fight, and they don't even do cool like judo takedowns, and they don't do cool jujitsu stuff. And you kind of watch that, and you're like, did I even enjoy that? I don't know. Kind of stressful. But they win all the time, and it's never cool.
Welcome back to the Ringer Sunday pregame here on YouTube and FanDuel TV. Cousin Sal, Raheem Palmer, Joe House. We'll have our buddies Bill Simmons and Chris Ryan joining us after the noon hour. John Jastremski trying to make it 2 in a row with the wise wager. That's right. That's just for you, Bill Simmons. Football fans, the season is in full swing, and the holidays are right around the corner. So stuff yourself with more NFL football and sign up for the NFL Sunday Ticket for only $89. Get it now and watch every game every Sunday for the rest of the season. Terms and embargoes apply. And yeah, I'll remind you one more time because I'm being stressed to do so. Yes, Bill Simmons and Chris Ryan will be joining us a little bit later on in the show. I know you're thrilled about that, Sal. You spend an hour and a half with Simmons on YouTube and guess the lines, and now you get to spend more time with your pal. You excited?
I'm worried. Part of the terms and embargoes are that we have to be off the air by a certain time. Simmons will just go straight through to guess the lines if it's up to him. So we got to keep him in check, House.
Well, that's going to be your job today, not mine. So I'm actually relieved about that. And if you want to get in touch with the show, we take YouTube comments. Of course, we're on YouTube TV. You can leave us a question or a comment for any of the wise guys or all the wise guys if you're watching on YouTube. And we got one. This is a good one, guys. The rat line of the week is once again the Jets. And you know what? House, I kind of think it could easily fit that description. And this is coming from a guy who bets Seattle. I am not getting cute. I almost included Seattle as my wisest wager of the week. They were impressive against Arizona last week. I think they're starting to find it defensively. And why am I supposed to believe the Jets off a bye are going to be inspired to go and play football? But yet in the last 24 to 48 hours, House, this line has moved from Seahawks -1.5. Now the Jets are favored by a point and a half. What gives on this?
It's a dead rat, and everybody on this panel loves the Seahawks in the situation. The Seahawks have been good coming from west to east, no issue whatsoever. But this situation with the Jets is impenetrable. Who the hell knows what kind of motivation they have? They're all singing from different song sheets. The defense was supposed to be a top 5 defense this year. Instead, it's a bottom 5. Geno Smith revenge game. I have no idea what to do here. I do have an observation. I hope we get to discuss it on $1 Million Picks because Breece Hall D's nuts, I think, is due for a little bit of a breakout.
Interesting. Oh, maybe that'll be worked into one of the equations for Joe House as we give our family meal and some other wacky, zany bets throughout the show. Raheem, why did this line move over the last 24 hours? You would know better than me.
Yeah, I think there's some people in the market who feels like this is an over-adjustment. Like if you look back on the look-ahead lines, previously it was Jets -3. Now we're all the way to Seahawks -1.5. And I do think there's a caveat here. JJ, you mentioned how nasty it is in New York right now. It's 39 degrees, 20% chance of precipitation, a little bit of a wind. And the one thing you got to worry about with Geno Smith is that he tends to make a couple of mistakes. I mean, you saw it last week. He tried to throw that game away when they had it on lock. So if Geno doesn't make any mistakes, I do think the Seahawks are going to win this game. And we're calling it a rat. But me personally, I think this might be a bargain. I think we might look back in 3, 4, or 5 weeks and say, how are the Seahawks only laying 1.5? So sometimes you got to just, take a stand. I look at this Jets team. They're 30th in EPA per play on defense. They can't stop a nosebleed. Meanwhile, you look at the Seattle Seahawks. Right now, that defense is rolling. They shut down James Conner. They shut down Kyler Murray last week. So this might not be a rat.
Sal,
can I just say,
how do we not take Seattle, Sal?
We are going to take Seattle, but we do have to be careful. And to Raheem's point, I feel like these teams that we've given eulogies to, the teams that were supposed to be good, the Bears, the Jaguars, the Jets, do they have one more game in them each and over the next month that are going to screw the common guy like us? Possibly. I don't know. We've seen it before. Or maybe they just go, maybe the Jets just Jets the rest of the way. That's what I'm hoping.
All it takes is one. Well, in this particular week, on this particular Sunday, I'm not getting cute. I still like the Seahawks. Okay, guys, we had our wisest wagers. We had our rat lines. It's time to get barking. I got dogs in my house driving me nuts. Holiday time. Everybody needs JJ. Hopefully that means I have a winner for Man's Best Bet. Let's bark. And I mentioned I'm watching Two Dogs over the holiday weekend, so of course I'm starting the proceedings. How's she going to like this? Give me Cleveland plus 5.5 outright against the Denver Broncos. I know a lot of what we've seen throughout this year would lead us to believe that Jameis Winston is not up to this challenge, that Denver's defense is going to be overwhelming, and that Bo Nix is going to continue to go and do his thing. I kind of get the sense that Cleveland profiles as one of those stinky teams that Sal was just talking about a few moments ago that hasn't folded up the shop and is not going to quit on the remainder of this year. And we know Denver is going to be a popular money line parlay. We know Denver is going to be included in a whole lot of picks, spreads, parlays, you name it, in a standalone spot. I just don't get the sense it's going to be that easy for the rookie quarterback and not easy for this Denver team. So I'm going to say that to throw all sorts of monkey wrenches into the playoff mix in the AFC, which is good news for my Dolphins, which is especially good news for Cincinnati, who is going to go and win today. Jameis Winston in primetime is going to do it one more time. Give me Cleveland outright, Joe House. I know you like it. So what do you got for our dog of the week?
Yeah, we're aligned on Cleveland, but JJ, we're heads up on this Steelers-Bengals game. And I think you made a good, compelling case for why the Bengals laying the points makes sense. But I'm legally obligated. All of my man's best bets this season have come at the hands of the beautiful Mike Tomlin. And I'll do the trends, yes, over the past 10 years. Here's the most important one. They've played 29 road games in the AFC North since December the 1st, 2014. It's December the 1st, 2024. Mike Tomlin has lost 2 in a row just once. Just one time in 21 road games. In general, we love Pittsburgh in the spot. 29-19 straight up as a single digit underdog. This season, Steelers 4-0 against the spread as dogs. They've won all 4 outright. That's why I'm around even on this man's best bet. And here's the thing with Joe Burrow that I'm worried about. It's his wrist. He has said, he's observed out loud that he doesn't know how his wrist is going to behave in this cold. The temperature is supposed to be in the mid-20s, JJ. If he isn't able to wing the rock around the way he's shown us thus far this season, then this could be one of those Pittsburgh Tomlin voodoo moments. Give me the Steelers.
House and I, heads up, we are aligned in the Cleveland game. And just to tie it back full circle, Raheem called dibs on this game and took my man's best bet. I had to take House's best bet. But Raheem, I love your underdog of the week. I think it's a great spot. I think it's a great play. Please share with the audience what that would be.
I'm going to go with the Arizona Cardinals on the money line plus 144. You guys watch the NBA. Well, a lot of times teams, they go out there on that road trip and then they come home, they see their wives, they have Thanksgiving dinner, they got to get everything settled, and they're not as focused for that home game coming off the road trip. So the Minnesota Vikings, they played 3 straight road games against Mac Jones, Will Levis, and Caleb Williams. And I got to shout out Cleve TA for digging up this information. Since 2000, this has only happened in the regular season 12 times, and only 3 of those teams have covered. So this is a really bad spot for the Minnesota Vikings. And if you look at the Arizona Cardinals, that defense is for real right now. They've allowed fewer than 10 points to the last 3 opponents. Seattle, 16 points last week, and 7 came off of a pick 6. So I think this defense is rolling. But then you look at the Minnesota Vikings. They never really faced a running quarterback this year. So I think Kyler Murray, he should be able to generate some explosive plays. And we've seen the Vikings give us some explosive plays. We saw it last week against Caleb Williams. And you look at Sam Darnold. I don't really trust him at all. I think he's the type of quarterback who's going to give you one. And against this Arizona Cardinals defense, I think he gives you one. Give me the money line. They win this game outright.
Like the sound of that, Raheem. And Kyler Murray, one of these quarterbacks, when he has a dud of a game, and he had a dud of a game last week against Seattle, that's when everybody's out on Kyler, and then he pulls you right back in. That's why I think it's a good spot for the Cardinals. Outright, I'm right there with you. Sal, you hit on a stinky dog last week. You nailed it. You had the Tennessee Titans outright against the Houston Texans. You're looking to yet another stinky dog on this particular week.
I am. And let me just say, we've all been pretty good with these, right? You're in the black, JJ. I'm in the black now. Your house is right around there. I think Raheem's going to win this week with the Cardinals, but I am taking the Jaguars plus 146. I'm doubling back. I had the Titans last week against the Texans, and I don't see a lot of things that I like out of this Houston team. I really don't. CJ Stroud Has the league figured him out? I hope not, but 3 touchdowns and 5 interceptions in his last 3 games might suggest that they have. They only won this game 24-20 when they played back in September, and Stroud needed like the last 18 seconds. He threw a touchdown pass to win it there. Jags, obviously one of the big disappointments this year, but Trevor Lawrence is back, and the fact that Doug Peterson survived London and the Thanksgiving holiday makes me think he is immortal. They're already looking for him to star in Gladiator 3. I'm not sure what's going on. I feel like they pull out a win. People are already buying low on Houston. I think it might get even lower for them. What do they care? They have a 2-game lead and even more in the division with the tiebreaker. So it's not really a must win. It could be a somewhat get right game for the Jaguars. Coach Middleseat, a modern miracle, pulls this out 21-18, JJ.
Weird spot for the Texans, because you nailed this out. They have a comfortable 2.5-game lead, but they've been so uninspiring throughout the year. Fading the Texans, not a bad way to look at man's best bet, because you're still getting good value on their opponents. You did last week. You're trying to do it again this week. Okay, House, it's time for an SGP. You're giving us a game in the late window. I like what you're trying to do here. Rams, Saints, take it away.
Yeah, I like being on the same side as Raheem the Dream. So this one, 4 legs, right around 5-1. It's the LA Rams money line. Dream mentioned it. The Rams are playing for the NFC West division. That division remains a jump ball, and a playoff spot is still there. But here's the thing. They're top tier pass rush against a very questionable Saints offensive line. And we know Derek Carr hates pressure. So that's perfect for these Rams in the spot they're in. And then we're looking at the Saints, who have no wide receivers. Over receiving yards for Taysom Hill. I have him at 28.5. He's running between 16 and 18 routes in the last 4 games. Week 9, 41 yards. Week 10, 36 yards. Week 11, 50 yards. 28.5 is what I have him at. And then on the other side of that, Alvin Kamara coming out of the backfield. He's had 5 or more receptions in 7 straight games. He only had 4 last week, but I like what they're doing here. It's unlikely that the Saints are going to do anything other than try and get the ball out of Derek Carr's hands as quickly as possible because of that fierce Rams pass rush. And then we're going to make it simple. Matthew Stafford, just 225 yards, an alt passing yards total. The Saints are decimated at cornerback. They have a bottom 5 pass rush, and we have, for the Rams, healthy receivers, healthy Kyron Williams. We like Matthew Stafford getting the ball down the field.
I like the sound of that, House. Okay, for my SGP, I'm looking at a game that I think has the potential to get a little nutty. That would be the Falcons and the Los Angeles Chargers. We're going to play an alt spread. I think this is a field goal game, so I'm going to take Atlanta and take them up to 6.5. Ladd McConkey has emerged as Justin Herbert's #1 target. We're going to take McConkey 60-plus receiving yards. Safe side. Speaking of the safe side, Justin Herbert, he's going to throw for over 225 passing yards against this Falcon defense. Of course he is. And then last but not least, give me Bijan Robinson, who has to have a big role in this game to go and get an anytime touchdown. So you put those 4 legs together. It's not a crazy payout, but we want to hit one of these. We'll give it to you at plus 303. So now that we got our SGPs out of the way, fellas, our man's best bet is on the table. Our rat lines are signed, sealed, delivered. It's time for the post-Thanksgiving. I know everybody's stuffed. I know everybody's wondering, how can we possibly eat even more? Well, it's time, guys. Let's get in the kitchen and let's cook up our family meal for Sunday. Let's get right to it. Who are we starting with? I want to make sure I get this right. Chef House, take it away. You're up first.
Sure. Saquon Barkley over 19.5 total receiving yards. Yes, the Ravens have the top rushing defense in the NFL. This is such a great matchup. We're so blessed to have this on a Sunday afternoon. The Ravens will try and shut down Saquon running, but Ravens not good against defending screens or shallow crossers. Roquan Smith still beat up. The Eagles will be searching for ways to get the ball into Saquon's hands. And the Ravens allow nearly 9 yards per completion to running backs. 29th in the NFL. Barkley out in space. That's the way the Eagles are going to scheme this. Saquon just 20 receiving yards. J.K. Dobbins went over this in less than a half before he got hurt. So we like this one.
We do. Always going to get stuffed with little Saquon Barkley. Rushing props, anytime touchdowns, receiving props. Think he'll be involved in the passing game down in Baltimore on Sunday. Okay, Raheem, you're going to that night game where the snow was insane in Buffalo. It's going to be clear by kickoff. Just going to be messy getting to that stadium. And you're looking at one of Josh Allen's favorite targets for a guy we're targeting in our family meal.
I'm going to go with Khalil Shakir. Over 54.5 receiving yards. Yes, I'm bringing a turkey leg to the Sunday family meal. And here's the thing. JJ, you mentioned the snow. I actually like the snow because the receiver knows where they're going. The defender doesn't. So it actually makes it easier for receivers. Now, second-year tight end Dalton Kincaid, he's out for the second straight week. And that opens up more targets for him. Since week 7, he's hit this number in 4 out of the last 5 games. And he's also seen a season high 70% snap share. So he's on the field, and he's a guy that Josh Allen is looking for. And, just another caveat is the fact that Nick Bosa is probably out for this game, which means there's a lack of pressure. And when there's a lack of pressure, that allows Josh Allen to have some more time to throw to receivers. So let's go with Khalil Shakir, over 54.5 receiving yards.
Yeah, I like the sound of that, Raheem, and I think you're going to like the sound of what I'm bringing to this week's family meal. And that would be Arizona Cardinals quarterback Kyler Murray, over 222.5 passing yards. And I mentioned how Kyler Murray is a guy that tends to alternate good game, bad game, good game, bad game. Well, he's coming off a rotten game against the Seattle Seahawks, and I see a Minnesota secondary that's starting to get exposed here over these last few weeks. And you had Jonathan Gannon come out earlier in the week and say, we are going to do everything imaginable to go and get Marvin Harrison Jr. going. Well, getting Marvin Harrison Jr. going is going to lead to great results in the passing game for Kyler Murray. I think he has a big day in the air. I'm taking it at even money. I know you like the Cardinals outright. I'm right there with you, Raheem. Over 222.5 or 25.5, whatever it is. I like the over. Give me the over, the over, the over. Big day for Kyler Murray. I screwed up the number. Doesn't matter. He's going over. Sal, last but not least, what do you have for the family?
All right. Speaking of screw-ups, my poor dear wife screwed up the sweet potato pie. We may have a picture here. She burnt it. She left it in the oven. She had too much going on out there.
Oh, no. Brutal.
I love it.
That's rough.
I'm going to keep her around another year. We renewed her for another year, but she can't keep screwing this up. I love burnt everything. Bacon, popcorn, but even I couldn't dig to the bottom of that and figure it out. And by the way, the smoke alarms went off, and it was exactly when the Cowboys won, and everybody thought, is this what happens? You sound alarms when the Cowboys win their first home game? A bunch of jokesters I eat with. But no, that is not the case. Good job by you, Melissa. We'll jump back with the sweet potato pie next year. Russell Wilson, though, for my family pick, over 37.5 passing yard for the longest pass of the game. Over 37.5. I know there's a better way to say that, but he has hit this over in 7 of his last 9 games, dating back to even his Denver days. But now with Pittsburgh, it's basically a jump ball to George Pickens. And like, all right, I don't care if you're triple covered. We know you're going to come down with this at least once. So that's where we get the Russell Wilson to have his longest pass, 38 or more yards. He throws a Hail Mary-esque pass to George Pickens, even though it's just probably around midfield. Tylan Wallace had an 84-yarder against this team, against this Bengals team. So let's figure it out, Russell Wilson. 38 or more, that gets us in the family meal.
He's done a great job, Sal, since he's taken over as the starting quarterback, throwing the ball down the field. So I see where you're going with this. Okay, let's take a look at what the boys put together for our family meal here in Week 13. House, rolling with Saquon Barkley, over 19.5 receiving yards. Raheem is rolling with Mr. Shakir at over 55.5 receiving yards. See, I got the number right. There was confusion on the graphic. I'm glad that I got the number right. It's 222.5 for Kyler Murray. Thank you, Week 13 graphic. And then last but not least, Russell Wilson, over 37.5 for the longest pass. Little under 12-1, guys. I like the sound of that. Now, I know I'm stuffed. I know it was Thanksgiving. I know we just gave you a family meal, but we got to top it off with the long shot ice cream sundae, which means you got to bring at least 200 plus odds or better to this particular dessert. House, I'll let you start.
Yeah, this doesn't really feel like we're going too far out on a limb. It's Cade Otton with an anytime touchdown in this Tampa-Carolina matchup. The Panthers can't defend tight ends in tight spaces, and Baker Mayfield loves feeding this guy. So I think he's going to be a problem in the slot. Even with Mike Evans back, Otton in on third downs and in the red zone, Baker finds him. Panthers have allowed 9 touchdowns to tight ends this season. That's 3 more than any other team in the entire NFL. 7 in the past 5 games alone. Cade Otton, anytime touchdown, plus 220. Let's cash.
Let's stay in that Buck-Panther game. Raheem, there's a lot of tie-ins for you in that Buck-Panther game. You got one more for us, and you're taking a page out of a play that I gave out unsuccessfully a week ago.
Yeah, I think it got mushed last week because I think, the guest, I forget his name, he was on it. I think Johnny Bananas. But it's a new day, and I love the fact that me and House are on the same page when it comes to the Bucks and the Panthers. I'm going to go with Mike Evans. 2+ touchdowns. You look, the fact that Mike Evans has missed a month of the season and he still leads the Buccaneers in touchdown receptions. And you look at the Buccaneers, they have the 4th highest pass touchdown rate. They're going up against the Panthers defense, which really can't stop anybody. And I think this should be a shootout. So I think Bryce Young is going to be able to push this Bucks team. So they're not going to stop throwing and they're not going to stop scoring. So let's go with Mike Evans. 2+ touchdowns. That play is 950 to 1.
I like the sound of that, Raheem. I don't like the sound what Sal's going to give us, but it's, Sal, a staple for you. It feels like way too often on this particular show or on any Sunday for that matter. So let's hear.
Well, listen, this is just an insurance policy that pays off like every 3 weeks. Imagine if you could take insurance on a game, but they deposit a check into your checking account every 3 or 4 weeks. This is the Sal Steel City special. This is the Steelers' opponent to win the first half and the Steelers to win the game. It's hit a few times. It's 4 times already this year. Falcons game, the Chargers game, the Jets game, and the Commanders game. Already a winner for the season, but paying plus 800 against an offense that can score and a Lou Anarumo defense that's highly erratic, I think that's fair to say. Steelers won 3 of the last 4 in this series. I know you say it's a different story with Burrow. We know he's going to score, so let him win the first half, and Cincinnati blows the game. They just might be the team that should win every game, but doesn't. And Mike Tomlin right there, as House mentioned, coming off a loss, not a bad spot to be in. Cash in on the Steel City special, plus 800.
This is a decent hedge for me if I want to go in that direction because it's going to be a tight game. And if the Bengals are up, I might be staring plus 800 in the face. I can't ride. I can't do it. I'm too invested in Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and the Bengals who need a win in the absolute worst way, and they're going to get it. All right, let's take a look at who's in and who's out for this Week 13 slate of NFL games. House mentioned Austin Eckler. Big loss for the Washington Commanders. He is not going to be able to give it a go. You see J.K. Dobbins right there for the L.A. Chargers. He's out, and he's on injured reserve, so I'm sure a lot of people picked up Gus Edwards in their fantasy leagues. Brock Purdy, he will give it a go for the San Francisco 49ers, but as we mentioned earlier in the show, Nick Bosa and Trent Williams out. Problematic for Kyle Shanahan and company. And that's a big one for Baltimore. They didn't have him on Monday night against the Chargers, but Roquan Smith, one of the best players on that defense, will play for Baltimore against the Eagles. Now, guys, let's take a look at the wonderful graphic that our astute Ringer Wise Guys team put together on the Ringer Sunday pregame. It shows all the picks. It shows where there's unity. It shows where there's dissension. Jack, let's take a look at that graphic right there. And
beautiful.
Oh, my goodness, guys. I am riding lone wolf with the Bengals. Oh, baby. Raheem, I thought I might have you on board with Cincinnati, and you're siding with House and Sal. Shame on you, Raheem.
Yeah, I just can't trust this Bengals team. It just feels like, it's one thing or other. Is it the defense? Is it the field goal kicker? Like, how many games have they lost because the kicker can't make a game-winning field goal? So I know Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase are putting up points, but for whatever reason, Mike Tomlin just has that voodoo. He finds a way to win, and I don't know if Zach Taylor is capable.
Now, I do see here that there is plenty of unity. Sal, last week we all rode with Tennessee.
Yeah.
And we're all riding with Tennessee. This week, hey, maybe the Titans are becoming the team of the wise guys for the rest of the year. Is that going to be a thing?
We went over. First of all, I think we had 3 games that we were all on, and that's usually, a recipe for disaster. We were 2-1 last week, and we've done pretty well when we're all on the same team for the whole year. But yeah, the Titans are strange. And we talked about it last week, right? The quarterback probably couldn't be worse in terms of who you want to score a touchdown in the fourth quarter, but their defense is so solid. It's top 3 in every metric you look at. Second against the pass, I think third against the run, and like second overall in the league. They're a fun team to bet if you're getting a lot of points.
And there are other games that I fully expected that we'd have the split action house. And that Charger-Falcon game, like, that was one of the least surprising things I saw when everybody submitted their picks. I knew we'd be 2v2 on Chargers and Falcons. And full disclosure, I picked the Falcons and I hate it. But I couldn't escape the spot. You know what I'm saying, House? That's really what it boiled down to for me, at least.
You and I are in lockstep. The more I looked at it, the more I think this is a great spot for the Falcons with the Chargers on a short week and with that J.K. Dobbins injury. And I think we've seen the last few weeks this Chargers defense. We've seen kind of, the wrapper is off and the present doesn't look very good. You can get outside the tackles against this Chargers defense and get running downhill and let Bijan and Algier get going. I actually love this. And I think that the AFC playoff race is going to be really interesting when we wake up Monday morning. I'm going to parlay both the Falcons and the Browns on a money line parlay because I think the Chargers in Denver, the darlings thus far, both looking at losses this week.
Interesting. And Raheem, you went lone wolf with Bills Niners. I thought when I submitted Niners, I was going to be the only guy on San Francisco. No, it turns out my guy Raheem is the lone wolf on Buffalo.
Well, I think this was a little bit of game theory. You guys are ahead of me. I got to try to catch up. So let me just look at everybody else's picks and just go opposite. And then you can't go wrong with Josh Allen. I think he's been covering every week. So that's who I'm riding with. I'm not riding with the 49ers, who look pretty dead right now.
Understandable. A lot of family plays on that graphic, on that board. Let's hope that we have the same success with our wise wagers and our family plays for this particular NFL Sunday. That's going to do it for Raheem and myself. I'm boycotting because Bill Simmons is coming on. So he was disparaging my picks. So, guys, I've decided for the first time this year, I'm signing off at noon, and we can't have 2 Philly guys on the show. So, Raheem, I will see you Monday for East Coast Bias. Sal and House, you guys hold down the fort. Take care of things while Simmons is there. Sal, House, I'm counting on you, okay?
You got it. We're going to make you proud, buddy.
Don't stink. Hey, and go Qs. What a win against the Canes yesterday. For Raheem and JJ, we're signing off. Simmons and Chris Ryan on the other side of the break.
All right, the Cardinals are at the Vikings this week. Vikings are giving 4 points.
This is a good defensive matchup, don't you think? I kind of like Arizona in this game. I feel like one of the secret stories of the year in the NFL has been coaching on the defensive side, not on the offensive side. I think there's been so much buzz in the last however many years about all these like wonderkin offensive play callers. There's, like this Shanahan, LaFleur, McVay tree, all that stuff. But there's a lot of defensive guys cooking right now. And Shane Steichen, the head coach, Jonathan Gannon, the other guy from the Eagles, who's coaching the Cardinals, is definitely one of them. The Cardinals have been amazing the last 4 weeks. They're giving up the least points in the league over the last month. 10 points a game.
If you notice, all the coaches that we make fun of a lot entering their first season are incredible at their job.
Yeah.
Dan Campbell, all we did was mock him for the kneecaps and the biting. Dude, the players love this guy more than anyone. And you rewatch that and you're like, damn, he's been himself the whole time. I don't know if I made fun of anyone more than Jonathan Gannon. Jonathan
Gannon was like the most awkward person I've ever seen.
Real life Kendall Roy.
Yeah, the win probability charts where it's like you had a 99% chance of losing and then you win the game. Like the vibes probability chart of right after he did the pew, pew, pew.
Pew, 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 pew.
Was literally
run out more.
1% shot of being cool and his team liking him. And he pulled
Falcons. And dude, the Cardinals, you know what? They're not even good on defense. Like, I don't really understand how they're trotting out a defense like this, like a secondary. And they're just trying really hard for this guy. And you know who else we made fun of a lot? Nick Sirianni, because he said, I like competitiveness. I don't know if you guys remember this. He said, I like to play rock, paper, scissors in the combine interviews. They have 15 minutes. He would play rock, paper, scissors with the guys and see how mad they were when they would lose. And I will say, as much as Sirianni's a jabroni, I didn't think that guy was going to take him to the Super Bowl like a year later. Like they almost won the Super Bowl, Nick Sirianni. I'm just saying there's something here where we make fun of a coach. We should pause and bet on that team to like win the division.
All right, welcome back to the Ringer pregame show. It's week 13. The leaves are changing colors and the holidays are coming soon. So gift yourself some more NFL football by signing up for NFL Sunday Ticket for only $89. Plus, you get game day features. Dynamic duo from parts unknown, weight unknown, here to present the rewatchables from the 2002 Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade telecast. The Transformer float got screwed that year. I really do believe it. America's sweetheart, Bill Simmons and Chris Ryan. What's happening, fellas?
Sal, thanks for having us, man.
Great to be here. Let's call this what it is. JJ has had a really rough year.
Yeah.
And much like Jared Mayo and Jerron Mayo and Doug Peterson, and Shane Steichen even, there's some people on the line here as we get into December, and we're trying to test out some other matchups. JJ needs to step it up. This is basically putting pressure on JJ, and that's it.
He couldn't even face you, Simmons. He felt the pressure. He's like, I got to get out. Two of us have to leave. I'm definitely one of them after taking some shrapnel for you over text.
Well, plus he knew CR was going to be surly today with this Ravens game looming, and
that's
Devonta
right.
Smith is probably not playing, and CR, you got to be just dreading this game. But at least you have your NBA season to look forward to.
Oh my God, that took you 30 seconds. I want to get out at Baltimore with no bone bruises for Saquon. That's my goal. Like we just want to escape the Ravens healthy. That's the dream.
Oh, this is it. That's it. Just getting out with like a low injury report.
Yeah, no concussions, no tent work. Look, let's just get out of there and keep it moving because I think I think we're playing our best football right when we need to be.
That's what JJ said. No concussions, no tent work. That's why you got out. Go ahead. What were you gonna say, sir?
You had the Ravens. You had the same instinct I had. The Ravens -3. Not wanting to get caught, because I like the Ravens in that game, not wanting to get caught with the Ravens winning by 3, and then you just win nothing. and had to tinker with that to get to -2.5, which there were some fun options. One thing though, I don't know if people even realize you can do this. You can take the under and the over. You can take crazy unders and crazy overs of the same game. So how?
What are you talking about?
If I told you I could take the Ravens down to -2.5, but then I could go over 29 points, but 28.5, 29 points, under 70.5. So basically, if the game ends between 29 and 70 points, I win that over under combo and I get Ravens -2.5, and that's -113, -115 range. Is that something you would be interested in?
Yeah, you got us to a fair price. You know, we're trying to find around -110 for Ravens -2.5, and you just created a nice corridor. They better land inside of that corridor. I think the weather in Baltimore should be fine, and both of those teams we ought to see points out of. I'm on board with this. -113 sounds like a fine price.
Yeah, it's 29 and 70 points, Sal. That's somewhere in there. So like 16-13, I still hit it. It would really have to be like a 38-34 type blowout. But do we see that happening in bad weather?
It's a little scary. No, not in bad weather. It shouldn't. Although 7 of the last 8, I think I said Ravens games have gone 50 or more, but that's still another 3 touchdown swing after the 50. But hey, listen, before we go forward, I want to go backwards a little couple of days. The Eberflus screw up, which led to his firing. Is it amongst the top 3 Thanksgiving blunders? Simmons, I'll start with you. Mine were Leon Lett kicking the ball around against the Dolphins and losing that game on the block kick. That was terrible. The butt fumble, which will live in infamy forever, and Phil Luckett screwing up the coin toss when Jerome Bettis, I still think he said Hales, so I'm not sure if it was bet, but it changed things forever. Does the Eberflus screw up enter the podium for Win Play Show?
What do you think, Sierra?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was really relatable. Like, I think all of us have those moments where you're just like, wow, this is really happening to me. And your brain freezes up and locks up. But usually it's when you're in like a little bit of a car accident or something like that. But this was a man losing his job on national television on Thanksgiving Day. It was incredible entertainment.
See, I wouldn't put it in there because I just wasn't remotely surprised by any of it. It's not like any of us were sitting in front of our TVs going, oh my God, Matt Eberflus and Caleb Williams, their rookie QB, really screwed up this last minute. Like, I was kind of waiting for it. You could feel it happening. They used that timeout. My favorite, see, everyone was concentrating the last minute of the game. My favorite was when he called the timeout on his own 3-yard line to prevent the delay of game. It was third and 7. It's like, let me use a timeout here. I want to make sure this doesn't get to 3rd and 8. The guy was just, he was off the rails for a couple of years here. So I wasn't surprised by anything. I would say like the Leon Lett thing was shocking. This was the Bears thing was not shocking to me.
That's CR's favorite, the Leon Lett thing for sure.
It definitely is.
As an Eagles fan. House, what about you? Sports Illustrated said this was the biggest sports Thanksgiving boner since the one you had watching Dolly Parton during the halftime show a few years ago.
Is that in Sports Illustrated? Is that how far they fall?
It's pretty controversial for Sports Illustrated. I thought it was weird too. What do you think?
It lasted more than 4 hours, I'll tell you that much. But look, I understand where Eberflus is coming from. He's looking for Thanksgiving leftovers. So he had a timeout. He had leftover stuffing, leftover gravy, leftover timeout. He put that on top of the turkey, a great set of leftovers. And I really admire the Bears really taking it all the way home on the bit. They let him show up Friday morning, even though they all decided on the airplane on the flight home to fire him. They let him go ahead and do his press conference. Yeah. He said, I'm still the coach. And then an hour later, he wasn't the coach anymore. They messed up the timing of firing the guy. God bless the Bears. Great job.
I loved it. All right, Simmons, Chris Ryan. Here's our wisest way. Patriots over 20.5. That's mine. Raheem, Rams -2.5. House, Titans +6.5. And JJ, Bengals -2.5. Chris, we'll start with you. Which stands out? Which would you go with? The gun to your head, you had to take one of them.
I love houses. I love betting against the house here. This is really good. So I appreciate that. I think Will Levis has been frisky. I'm into Joe Houses.
Okay. All right. Simmons, you like? I mean, I'm not kissing your ass with this Patriots over 20.5. I really like it.
As you know, my biggest problem with this show is when you guys back bad teams as your widest wager. And
Yeah.
I do like the Titans a lot, but I wouldn't make that my number one pick. And I think House is I think he had too much turkey over Thanksgiving. And he's just a little groggy. I really like that Pats 20+. And I actually had that. There's a parlay you can do, which is almost 6-1. Pats 20+. Drake May 225 passing. Drake May 25+ rushing, and Pop Douglas 50+ receiving yards, which he's done the last 4 weeks, and that's almost 6-1. By the way, I don't know
Is that a
if you
Mac
guys
Jones
noticed.
jersey? Yeah.
No, it is not a Mac Jones jersey. It's a Drake May jersey. And on Black Friday, I treated myself to it, and I was very excited about it because I don't think I bought a Pats jersey for myself in 20 years, but I needed it because Kyle comes over every week to watch the Pats game. And I'm like, I'm too old to wear a Pats jersey. Now it's like, I'm back, baby. I'm wearing Drake May.
Good. You look so much more youthful too. I mean, you
Thank you.
pass for a Kardashian at this point. Yeah.
Simmons. Sal, how old do you have to be to wear a football jersey before it just becomes like a terrible idea? Because I'm almost there.
In the house with Kyle or going to the game? I think
just
it's a
in the house,
answer.
not leaving the house. I would not go outside with the jersey on.
In the house, you're fine. 77, I would say, in the house.
77.
Yeah.
I think the time to ring the alarm is if he starts doing TikTok dances or something like that. I think a jersey is still acceptable for indoor behavior, though.
Do you want to give us a quick TikTok dance, Simmons? This could be nice. You could break that out.
I don't.
All right. Now, Bill, you asked if you could do $1 Million picks during our pregame show, and everyone's very afraid of you. So they said, yes, of course you can. So, but I feel like this is planting your flag on our turf here. And I don't know if you saw the highlights. That could lead to, you could get pepper sprayed here at any point, but please go ahead and give us your $1 million.
Well, I never did it on I never did the third pod this week. So House and I never got to do $1 Million picks. I texted him and House was just in a coma on his couch. So we just couldn't do it.
Don't make me get out the receipts. Don't make me. Or tell everybody what you were doing. Tell everybody what you were doing.
I went walking drinking with my wife and her friend Crazy Krista. And there were Bloody Marys and ended up not doing it. So I'm gonna do it here. So good news. I'm up 150,000 for the week, thanks to the Lions and the Packers. Wait, how about JJ and Raheem both like the Dolphins in that game? Did you give them proper crap for that?
No, JJ was too debris, so suicidal. You know, I just feel like any nudging could send him over the ledge at this point.
Why do the Dolphins fans always talk themselves into cold weather too again? CR, what's like the movie equivalent of that? Is it like just talking ourselves into the Rock's next movie?
It's invading Russia in a land war. What are you talking about?
Right, true. So anyway, I'm up, and the bet I did on Friday was Black Friday Chiefs, just the money line. All they have to do is win with the cards adjusted to +4.5, and the Chiefs game turned out to be a heart attack, which you guys talked about earlier. So I still have that. I have cards +4.5, +200, 200K. So here's the other ones. You mentioned the Seahawks as a rat line. And that line has shifted 3 points. Sal always calls that the 3-point bump. Seahawks now +1.5. I think this is a week where teams have been trying to tell us who they are for a couple weeks, and we've chosen not to believe them. And there's a couple teams. There's another team I'm going to go against in a second, but I think the Jets are done. It's going to be cold. It's going to be around like high 30s. Probably get colder as the day goes on in a Giant Stadium. I don't think Rodgers wants to play football anymore. Breece Hall got activated. I know House likes him, but he was like iffy all week. He's questionable. He had a knee thing. And I believe in the Seahawks team. I think they really won me over last week in that Cards game. They have everybody back. They have all their receivers back. They have Kenneth Walker back. They have the middle of their defensive line back. I don't think the Jets are going to be able to run on them. And conversely, I think the Seahawks are going to be able to really run and move the ball on the Jets. So Seahawks +1.5. That's one. Are we good with that one? Or what makes you nervous about that one? Anybody?
I like it. Just the fact that the line shifted and people are still betting the Jets makes me nervous a little. But I brought up the point earlier, like the teams that you expected to do well and did not. So the Bears, the Jags, the Jets, all were supposed to be around 9 or 10 wins. Yeah. What are they, like 15 games left? Do they screw the bettors in 2 of those or 3, or is this one of them? That's my only. But because the Seahawks are better, they haven't quit on their coach or anything like that. So other than that, It's just NFL football staring you in the face.
And the Jets have been trying to tell us who they are for 2 months.
Right.
And it's been one of the best bets you could do every week, week after week, is just to short the Jets, go against the Jets. Do you know they won 2 of their 3 games on Thursdays? I think they have one win. They haven't won a Sunday game since week 2 or week 3. So that's one. Here's another team that I think's been trying to tell us who they are: the Falcons.
Yeah,
they're not good. They're not good on defense. I don't love their quarterback when you're going against a good defense, which I think the Chargers have. I think people are a little off the Chargers, off what happened last week, but maybe they just went against a really good team. Chargers -1.5 in Atlanta. And the Dobbins injury, I think, scared some people off with this, but I actually like Vidal. I think him and Edwards, I don't mind that as a combo. But most importantly, the Falcons have no pass rush. You can throw on them, move the ball on them. And I like this spot for Herbert. I believe in the Chargers. I don't think they're going to win 2 games in a row. So what worries you about that one?
It's a short week. The Dobbins injury, I think, is significant. And I think that the numbers that populate that Chargers defense are fraudulent. I think that they racked up a whole bunch of numbers on in terms of defensive efficiency against bad offenses. And this Atlanta offense is not bad. If Kirk Cousins has time and that offensive line is able to give him time, then he's got the receiving core. And we just watched Baltimore successfully run outside the tackles. Don't run up the middle against the Chargers. Get outside. Well, Bijan and Algier are 2 guys that absolutely can live out on the corners. I like Atlanta today.
What do you think, CR? I'm willing to be talked out of this.
No, I kind of agree with House. You know, I mean, I think that Atlanta actually is pretty consistent, and especially if they get Bijan like into base, it's going to be really hard for the Chargers. Also, these short weeks just drive me nuts with these teams.
Well, so I was looking at their last few weeks. So they beat Tampa and Carolina in week 5 and 6, Atlanta.
Yeah.
Get killed by Seattle by 20. Barely beat Tampa. This was after the Mike Evans injury when Tampa was pretty depleted. And they barely won that one. Barely beat your crappy team.
What?
They lose to the Saints in the first game after the firing, and then they get killed by Denver in week 11. I just don't think the Falcons are good, and I'll go further. I think the NFC South sucks. If you take away their 7 wins against each other, I think they have 11 wins total this season against everybody else who's not in the division. I'm sticking with the Chargers. So that's
I don't think you're wrong about that. And I think you have the correct side with the Chargers, but you have to be prepared that this game is going to be 15-13 with 7.5 minutes left in the fourth.
I am.
Quarter.
I'm ready to sweat it out. I'm fully.
That's why he has the jersey on. Yeah.
That's right.
Ravens -2.5 with the over-under between 29 and 70. That's -115. Good. 200K on that for all the reasons we discussed. Unless CR, you want to throw your body in front of it, which it doesn't sound like you do.
No, go ahead. You made. I also don't even understand what you're talking about. It seems like you're betting both sides of this pretty heavily.
it's all out there.
Yeah. You're beautiful minding it. Don't let me get in the way.
All right, here's my big one. I want to put the Bills in a tease. I love the Bills. I think the Niners are another team who are trying to tell us who they are, and we don't want to believe them. They banged up all over the place. They're not going to have Trent Williams in this game. I haven't liked what I've seen from McCaffrey at all. Purdy's playing hurt. Terrible weather, snow. It has like a classic Josh Allen game. You know, I just want to put the Bills with somebody. So the candidates were Denver money line, which I really like, or Steelers in a tease, or Steelers like to +8.5, or put all 3 of them together. House, Pittsburgh +8.5, Buffalo to win, Denver to win, +149 on FanDuel.
The only thing that scares me is Denver. I think that the possibility of the Browns being a team that comes out and spoils everybody down the stretch is kind of out there. What they showed us in that Thursday night game against the Steelers, that's what I would be concerned about. Jameis on an island game. He's going to throw the ball 45 times. And yes, Bo Nix and the Broncos have been solid, but you just said that you know who they beat? They swept the NFC South, and they have 2 wins against the Raiders, and they beat the Jets. that's a okay resume. Congrats to Sean Payton. Congrats to Bo Nix. They're all headed in the right direction. I just think it's a little bit of a scary game for them against the Browns. That's all.
Simmons, with Buffalo, you're forgetting the Josh Allen engagement distraction game that's staring you right in the face
Jesus.
here. You know, where he's already got Haley Steinfeld asking him if his weird uncle can sit in the back at the reception. Like, if make sure your brother doesn't give too long of a speech. Like, the questions are coming in, and he's not concentrating on this Niners defense coming into town.
I didn't even think about that one. So that's why CR makes the big bucks for observations.
It
like
really
that.
is. That's great. I will wait, Bill, before you go on, I will say you could get the Bills at minus 275, but if you parlay it with Bills and the total under 164.5 points, it goes down to 271. So you might something to consider.
Well, I love the Denver money line. I disagree with House.
It's fine.
Here's the thing with Cleveland. They're kind of destroyed with injuries. Like, they even lost that receiver that started playing well for him. Even he's out. Their whole I think like 3/4 or 4/5 of their offensive line is out. On defense, they've lost guys. They lost their linebacker who runs around and covers everybody. Like, I just think they're a mess. I don't even know who he's going to be throwing the ball to other than Judy. So Denver will just take out Judy. I think Denver, as I've said for weeks, is the good bad team. You put them against other bad teams, they're winning. We've seen this work every year. They're going to go 10-7, and we can't wait to bet against them. So the question for me is the Steelers worth putting in as a plus 8.5? Is this because this is another, like, the Bengals are 4-7. They've been trying to tell us all year this is who they are, and yet people are still acting. This is a 4-7 team is a -3 favorite against an 8-3 team. And it just feels like this is, and House laid out all the Tomlin stats before. So why wouldn't I just bet that this is a close game and that the Steelers could win and take them up to plus 8.5? I don't know what I'm missing, Sal.
I love it. I like the Steel City special because the Bengals are really exactly what you said. We're going to have the better quarterback. We're going to play the better game, and we're going to lose most of the time. And all that factored in with the Tomlin off a loss really should keep this within a touchdown. So I don't see anything wrong with that.
Well, I'm going to split these up. I'm going to do Bills money line 200K with the Steelers plus 8.5. That's minus 122. That's basically a parlay. And then Bills money, Denver money, minus 112. I'm going to do that too, 200K.
The Jerry Jeudy revenge game. I hadn't realized that.
Oh, geez, I didn't realize. And then last one, the 50K parlay, Pats 20 plus, made 225 plus, made 25 plus, pop 50 plus 593. Ooh. And those are the $1 million cap. Pet House, we're up 493,000. This would be the week to try to push into 7 figures, hopefully.
We were in lockstep on your Thursday pick, so I'm glad that you got those out. I absolutely endorse every aspect of what you did.
Yeah, I wish I'd put more on the Packers in retrospect. I just couldn't believe people were like, no, Miami, they're coming on. It's like, what are we talking about?
You know, Mike McDaniel's face is just frozen, and you're like, what was I thinking?
JJ still doesn't blame Tua. I was like, Tua, cold weather. That seems like a fine narrative to just draw on the start. He's like, bro, we have bigger problems than Tua when the offensive line is getting pushed around. But that's a story for another day. So then we moved on. But nobody wants to blame Tua still.
Sal, we talked about this on Thursday because that Lions, and we're going to talk about it tonight on Guess the Lions, but that Lions defense might have passed the point of no return with the injuries and whether we want to start looking at the Packers for some bets. Because I think people have tried to ignore the Packers the last couple of weeks and made excuses for why they've looked good. I think the Packers just might be good, and we got to start. That's the team. They were like plus 750 to win the NFC, which I thought were pretty good odds. The other team would be CR's Eagles team, which I think maybe you wait till after tonight's game and then maybe jump on better odds for that. But is there anyone else in the NFC you're even afraid of other than the Lions and the Packers?
You're right about the Lions defense, where it's like, it sounds like guys coming back from Normandy. Like, every injury is just like, whoa, people still get those? Like, you know,
right.
My forearm was broken. So yeah, it's weird. It's like they might be kind of what the Eagles were a couple seasons ago, where it's just this absolutely dazzling opening to the season that then starts to crumble under a bunch of injuries.
Yeah, so the Packers are, for the NFC, still plus 750.
Yeah.
Eagles are plus 210, which I think goes up if they lose today. I can't make a case for a single other team. Like, it's funny. I've been trailing House all year with Washington because I actually think one of the rare times in his life where he's been really rational week after week with and not biased at all. Like you were saying earlier, you thought they were completely underrated, that they were moving the ball, you were in, and all these guys. And then as the injuries started to happen and the task became taller every week, you kind of zagged the other way, and you've been on it for a month, House.
Yeah, and this losing streak coincides with them going up against, tough defenses. They just don't have the depth. They don't have the personnel. That's not a knock. God bless them. They tried to create a new franchise from the ground up. It's basically an expansion team, and they've done an amazing job. We got Jaden Daniels. I didn't want to make you mad at me, but I really wanted to try and talk you into taking the Titans plus 12.5 as a teaser leg on the thing. But
I thought about it. That violates my rule, though.
I know you're going to mother
bad
me.
Quarterbacks in a tease. No, I can't. I'm never doing it. Because it's the right bet, but then he'll just screw it up and he'll have a 75-yard pick touchdown.
I know.
Speaking of bad teams, you might want to put in a teaser. CR's got an interesting one for his wisest wager. This is one of the more intriguing games on the board, I think.
Yeah, I threw the Panthers money line. I admittedly am a gambling novice other than some late nights betting Uzbekistani soccer, but like this is really like an interesting game just because you have Dave Canales coaching against his old team where he was OC last year. I think that the Bucks stink. Honestly, like this whole division is bad. And ever since the benching, Bryce has been a little bit more playing within himself. I wouldn't go as far to say good, but like completing the passes that he can complete and kind of not messing up the whole thing. If this thing stays close, I don't see why the Panthers can't walk away with it.
This is very on brand for CR. Because in NBA,
is it?
If Bryce Young was an NBA player, CR would have been buying stock with him the last 8 weeks.
Right? Is he Ben Simmons? Is that who he is?
No, it's more like a Jaden Ivey type situation. Like CR has a lot of Jaden Ivey stock. Like just like this guy has lottery pedigree. I'm not ready to quit on him yet.
Jaden Ivey has sunk multiple fantasy teams for me.
I went the other way on this one. And by the way, you're probably right. NFC South, just take the big plus underdog. But if you look at the stats, just the matchup stats, it feels like Tampa's going to move this ball all game. Because I was looking like I'm in do or die in the fantasy league, Sal and I are in the kickout league, and I need a big Baker game. And it really just feels like Baker should have a huge game in this game. So the path to Carolina would be to score on the other end. But to me, this is a stay away. I would not put them in a tease. But I'd probably rather do the money line bet than anything, Sal.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we talked about Tampa to win the division at 5-1 a couple weeks ago because we knew they had easy games coming up. The Giants last week and the Panthers twice, this being the first of two. And so I'm happy enough just losing that bet after they crap the bed in Carolina. But I did have Bryce Young 2 or more touchdown passes. Feel like he's fighting for his job, fighting for the pick to not be a quarterback this year. So I don't know. Maybe Chris Ryan's on board here.
Yeah, or polishing up his resume for some next stop next year when he goes to the Kyle Shanahan finishing school or something like that.
Right.
Can I tell you who almost sucked me in today was the Saints? And I know Raheem had the Rams. I think the Saints are terrible. I don't trust them at all. But I've been reading about the Clogger for the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
The Clogger's like one of the great special teams head coaches we've had. Like their special teams now is incredible. Taysom Hill is secretly like when he plays, they're really good. The Rams, their rushing defense is awful, and it really, really feels like there's a scenario where the Saints just dominate and run the ball, and they run for like 240 yards. I was looking at the Saints' first half game because I think they have to win the first half to win the game. Saints' first half game on FanDuel was plus 210, and I thought that was like fairly enticing because if you're gonna take the Saints, they're not going to come back with Carr. It'll be one of those, they're up 17-3 in the first half. And you're like, oh my God, why did I take the Rams? But when we talk about like weird crap that happens in the last 7 weeks, could the Saints be the team that just kind of comes out of nowhere and all of a sudden they're a game out in the NFC South with like 2 weeks to go? They're 4-7. They're only 2 back, right?
Yeah.
Atlanta loses today. Saints beat the Rams. They're 1 back behind the Falcons. I don't know. House is kind of nodding. I think you're in on this.
I couldn't get there. I looked at the Saints long and hard because there is no question that the clogger has, reinvigorated that whole situation. But the Rams pass rush is so good, and it looks like it's like gaining momentum, building up steam. And we've seen it so many times. Derek Carr under pressure, like if we see in the first 2 series, Derek Carr start turtling, start, hiding, grab the football and fall down. You're like, God damn it. Why did I bet the Saints? And that was the reason that I got scared off of it. Plus the Rams, like, this is to sustain the hunt for the division. Like they're still a live playoff team. They can win the NFC West if they hold serve against the Saints today. So
they're not good though.
They're not.
The Pats should have beaten them. That was when I was kind of out on them. But Sal, what do you think the Saints' odds are to win the NFC South?
What'd you say they are? 4-6. What's their record?
They're 4-7.
4-7.
FanDuel odds for them to
Plus
win the NFC South.
650. 650.
What do you think they are, CR? They're 2 back right now.
Like probably what Sal said.
What do you think, House? Do you know?
Higher, like 10-1 or something, probably.
They're 37-1.
Oh,
what?
No.
Yeah.
To win the South?
Yeah. Here are their next games. By the way, coming off a bye week, Rams today could be 5-7. At the Giants next week,
6-7.
Home for Washington, they could be 7-7 in 15 days. Then they're at Green Bay on Monday night, home Vegas, at Tampa week 18. So there's
they're gonna be favoring like one of those games. Why are you getting so excited?
I'm saying could 8 and 9 win that division?
Oh yeah, always.
Like could they get to 8 and 9? I think they could. They'd have to go 4-2 the next, Rams, Giants, Washington, Vegas. Maybe those are the 4 wins. Maybe they'd have to be Tampa, but 37-1 seemed crazy to me.
Listen, I already bet an NFC South winner that we agreed to bet on that you didn't then bet on. So I'm not going to
because we didn't do it right. We didn't look. They had already lost to Atlanta twice. That's why I thought it was a bad bet.
Yeah.
They have to jump them by a game. Listen, the lesson as always is don't bet on the NFC South.
NFC South.
We have our big bets before the year. They're under for the division, which was 30.5, which we're going to win pretty easily.
Yeah, absolutely. I like it. Should we talk about, you mentioned the West, and if we like Green Bay so much to win the conference, they are going to probably have to go to the West winner as the 3-6, wouldn't you think? So who is that?
Well, unless they get the Arizona? 5. If they pass Minnesota and they get the 5.
Well, so that's why this game is so important. Arizona and Minnesota. We haven't talked about it too much, but I feel like this could be the biggest overreaction game of the day. What do you think?
In what way? Like whoever wins, we get super excited about?
Exactly. Or whoever loses, we're done with them for the rest of the year.
What do you think, Sierra?
I think that's what sounds right to me, is that if Kyler somehow pulls this off, like everybody is back in on the Cardinals and thinking they're like a sexy underdog for the division, but I just don't see it personally. I just don't think they have the personnel, and Harrison has just not been performing up to like expectations. It just doesn't seem like they have the tools.
Yeah, I don't want to sound like sour grapes, but I thought that Seattle-Arizona game was actually felt a little playoffy to me. I thought both of those teams played well, and it really came down to 2 dumb Kyler plays. But for the most part, I thought both of the defenses were December playoff caliber, which is, I think, would be the case for them. And Sal, you pointed this out Sunday night. We were shocked that Arizona was still favored to win the division, plus 155, when Seattle has the tiebreakers and Seattle's playing the Jets this week. So yeah, Vegas clearly likes something.
Yeah, if the stupid Seahawks could take care of business against the Jets, I think we'll see a clearer path for the NFC West winner. But House, what are you going with? I think you stayed away from this game, right?
Yeah, I don't know what to do with it. I think I ended up taking Minnesota, but I hate the spot. Dream laid out a good argument for why you don't take a team that was on the road for 3 straight games and then they're back, return to home. It doesn't happen that often, and it's a tough spot for the home team. The 3.5 scares me. I do think the Cardinals' defense has been better, but it's like, which Kyler's going to show up? Which one? I don't know. And we're in the second half of the season now, and all of the evidence with Kyler in the second half of seasons, I couldn't get my teeth into a side here. And it's Thanksgiving weekend, so imagine.
Yeah, that's right.
I said that Sunday night. He's wrote me in so many times, and I've hated myself after backing him more than any other player in the 2020s, and now I'm back. one more time. I don't know who the actor is in that scenario, but where you just keep trusting it. I would say Gerard Butler, but he's actually delivering.
No, he delivers. For you, it's Adam Driver, where you're just like, oh, Adam Driver's in it, and then you're like, oh no.
No, but that's the thing. I wouldn't bet on Adam Driver. I would just be a blind out.
I was thinking Jay Smooth, but maybe I don't understand the analogy. I'm not sure.
Sal, are you a Den of Thieves guy?
Not really. No. Should I
Are
be?
you, House?
No, I don't know it.
See,
Oh,
this is our gospel. This is
We're
not enough people know.
The good word of Gerard Butler. Do you know what the plot of that movie is? It's
No.
essentially Heat with a little bit of high school football.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
There's multiple high school
got my
football.
attention.
House, here's why you should watch it. There's an entire crucial scene in a Benihana.
Oh,
With people
one of my
eating.
favorites.
People
Yeah.
are eating
right?
in the Benihana as the scene's happening. I don't know. That doesn't win you over.
Don't spoil it, but I don't. If a head gets chopped off on a Benihana grill, I'm gonna.
No.
Benihana.
It's all intensity.
All right, thank God. Thank
That's
God.
for your next documentary, Sim. Benihana. We could have a lot of fun with that.
That is a good. Yeah, I wonder if anyone's cracked that
It's an
code.
incredible
Go get it.
story. It's an incredible story for sure.
All right, so what do we have left?
I think that's it. I
it?
think we have to be off the air by a certain time or we violate all these embargoes.
Well, can I tell you one more thing?
Yeah.
Before
You
we go
can.
off the air?
You definitely
Yeah.
can.
There's a couple over-unders for the season that I think are at stake today.
Go ahead.
Pats 4.5. Carolina, I think, was also 4.5. And I think if they don't win this Tampa game, that's probably not happening either. I think New Orleans has to win today to hit. I think theirs was 7.5. But there's some, and then there's some conversely where, like Cincinnati, I think they might already be done. Actually, I think there might be.
They
10.5.
they're gonna come under. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I think they're on there.
But there's a couple others that could clinch it today. So, Sal, we did really well in the over-unders, and I'm excited for some of that to come. But the Pats, that was like my lock. I need unfortunately for me as a Pats fan, I need them to go 4-13.
I think a nation waits with bated breath to see if the Pats hit that over. I mean, that's really, I feel like it's election night all over again.
Well, Vegas was another one on Friday. Like, that would have been awful if because their over-under was, I think, 5.5 or 6.5.
Right. Yeah, it was right in there. I definitely had it over. So there's that. Yeah, but you're right.
don't
We
wanna
need
talk about that.
Kornacki to come out on the board, the big board, and show what the Pats route and path is to victory, the electoral votes. I think you can get it, Simmons. They're better than 4.5.
CR, what do you think the Sixers over-under is for wins right now? You have to guess.
9
Oh,
38.5.
at this pace. Honestly, if we get to double digits, I'll consider it a success. And we're planting our Cooper flag. Come on.
no, that's still a 7 seed. 38.5 is a 7 seed in the East.
FanDuel is saying if you get to 39 wins, you win your bet. The big three.
They are minus 200 to make the playoffs. Isn't that the better bet?
I was watching the Houston Sixers game the other night, and it was like watching a nature documentary, watching Eason and Thompson just destroy those guys.
All right, so I think we have to go.
All right, we got to go. Yes, some Eastern European guy with a machete has come in and who's giving me the sign. All right, guys.
I want to we sing Toto on the way out.
We should.
It's gonna take a lot to drag me away from you. And nothing that I
House has got Africa plus 3.5. All right, thank you, YouTube TV, FanDuel TV. Simmons and I can take a quick 11-hour break, and then we'll meet up for Guest Alliance tonight on YouTube. For JJ, Raheem, House, Chris, and Bill, I'm Sal saying so long and happy handicap.